Her first book, Embodying Soul, A Return to Wholeness, is a memoir of new beginnings. It's won several awards. And she's a wholeness advocate who promotes transformation through 3 stages: breakdown, reflection, and rebirth. And she's studied and been certified in many alternative modalities, including yoga, Ayurvedic. She studied herbal medicine, energy work, aromatherapy, Buddhism, Hinduism, Tantra, shamanism. So she puts all of these skills into her work as a spiritual guide and as a transformation consultant. She offers workshops and events and is a freelance writer, and you can find her on kerimangis.com. With that, Keri.
Thank you, Tina. Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to get to be with you here today. It is always such an honor to be invited back to speak here in this beautiful space and on this lovely Sunday in March. And I want to start off by just asking you, how are you? How are you with everything that is going on in our world right now? And I just want you to get in touch with your actual feelings and know that this is a safe space to acknowledge them and greet them and sit with them. Because I just know that for me, I can go through anxiety and shock and horror and fear and anxiety and depression and sadness all within a short period of time. And I know that if that's happening for me, I'm guessing it might be happening for you as well. And it's hard to stay focused right now. We live in what's called, I think they're starting to call it, the attention economy, where basically the most important commodity out there is our attention. And everybody is fighting for it. And we're pulled in 100 different directions every single day. Do you feel that? And so even though you are here physically, and I commend you for that, there's probably a part of you that isn't quite fully here. I mean, maybe there is a part of you that is sitting with a loved one. I know a part of me right now is sitting with John, now that you've told me that. There might be a part of you that is at work, toiling away at some project. A part of you still in bed. A part of you, I don't know, in the past somewhere. Because we know in the spiritual world, we understand a concept called soul loss. Have you heard of this? Soul loss is an idea that as we go through our lives, especially when we experience traumatic or consequential situations, a piece of our soul breaks off and stays behind. And we go on our lives without it, and we get accustomed to that. But the older we get, the more soul loss there is, and no wonder at some point in our lives, sometimes we say, what's happened to me? Where's my joy? Where's my vibrancy? Where are my passions? Where's that part of myself? And it may be true that it's somewhere in the past. And there's probably a part of you today that is in the future somewhere, what-ifing and wondering and worrying and hoping. And so what I'd like to do today is kind of follow up on what Tina started and really get us fully present. Because I think that that is the most challenging thing for us to do in these times, but it is also your greatest tool and your greatest power. And so when you're ready, I'd like you to just close your eyes and settle fully into your body. Let's get all the way here for 1 hour together. So I want you to feel your feet firmly rooted, grounded on the earth. I want you to feel that stability as you move up into your legs and then into your hips. Feel the chair supporting your weight. Be here now. Move up a little bit into the low belly and feel your breath meeting you there. If you'd like, you can take your hands to your belly and really feel the breath moving in and out. And if you notice that your breath isn't down this low, guide it down. With each inhale, bring it down further and further and further, which puts us in a rest and digest parasympathetic state of mind. It allows us to heal. And then slide up a little bit more into the chest and the heart, and notice anything that's sitting on your heart today. And just release that. Let it go. Soften, open. Come up onto your shoulders. Notice any burdens on your shoulders. And release those, knowing that you can always pick them up again. So just letting it go, and then sliding your awareness down your arms and into your hands and into your fingers, releasing your grip, letting go. And from this space of wholeness and openness, I'd like you to call back the pieces of your soul that are somewhere in your past timeline. And you don't have to know where they are. You don't have to identify. You just need to make a safe space and ask your soul to come home. With every inhale, just feel the fullness and the wholeness and that return, that embodiment. And then bring your awareness into the future and call home any parts of yourself that are out there. There'll be a time for that. Just bring it back. The more you have of yourself, the more power you have. The more embodied you are, and the more your actions will come from a place of response and not reaction. And then when you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes and come back. And I want to thank you for going into that experience with me. I do believe that that kind of a meditation, one in which we just get present, where that's the main focus, is just getting present, is more powerful than almost any other healing technique we could practice right now, especially right now. I think it gives you power, and I think it gives you agency. Now notice I didn't say that it gives you control. I said it gives agency. And there is a big difference between agency and control. And that's something that I want to talk about further on in our talk today. The difference between agency and control. Because our theme here this month at Lake Harriet Spiritual Community, does anyone already know? It's control. And specifically, the illusion of control. Which I chuckled a little bit when I saw that, because it kind of already gave the game away, right? We're already saying it's an illusion. And I think intellectually, we can all sit here and agree that control is an illusion, right? But I don't know that we give enough weight to how deeply embedded these ideas are in our psyche. I don't think we understand just how interwoven they are into our thoughts and actions and the way that we relate to ourselves every single day. When we talk about an illusion of control, we're also talking about it being a myth or being a false promise, being a fallacy, or if we want to just get really straight to it, it's a lie. And I do want to talk about this topic today, and I want to take it from two angles. I want to take it first from the microcosm angle. That is the personal. That is you as an individual and what you have come to believe and expect and know about the idea of control. And then I want to take it from a macrocosm level, the culture, the society. Because all the great teachings tell us that the microcosm and the macrocosm reflect and reveal each other. And so what is understood on a personal level can also be applied to the collective and vice versa. Which is great because if something resonates for you on the collective when we're talking about that and it resonates for you personally, that's exactly how it's designed to work. The microcosm mirrors the macro mirrors the micro. As above, so below, as within, so without. All is one. These are the great perennial truths that all spiritual teachings are grounded in and originate from. They are the perennial truths. By perennial, we mean they outlast everything. They supersede all these myths. In fact, the myths shroud these greater truths. Let me give you the perfect example. The myth of us and them. I just said that the great perennial truths say that all is one. All is one, and us and them cannot coexist. Us and them is the myth. All is one is the truth. So when we talk about control, we're going to start on the microcosm. Personally, individually, we have been told, a lot of us, since we were little, that we have control in our lives, that we can be anything we want to be, that the world is our oyster, especially here in America, right? The land of the free. There are no obstacles, no barriers. You can have it all. We were taught this by our parents, maybe, by our teachers. I was told it a lot by my coaches. You know, winners never quit. You just keep going and you'll get what you want. You can have it. Never say die. We were told this by the culture. Think of some of our phrases like the self-made man, right? Where does that come from? Somebody who has created an outcome in their life without any support, any aids, any help, any biases, any favors, any legs up, nothing? Self-made man? About the idea of hustle culture. The more we hustle, the more likely it is we can create the outcome. That's the idea of control, right? Our hard work, our actions, our steadfastness, our ambition equals a specific outcome. So we love a rags to riches story because we love to see people take control over their own lives. We love the idea of the bootstrap mentality, right? That we can pull ourselves up from the bootstraps. And the self-help community is an extension of this. And if you go to the bookstore and you just look down the books on self-help, they're going to tell you how you can master your life, how you can conquer your goals, how you can win at life. I mean, win friends and influence people. If that's not about control, what is? Here are these 4 steps to happiness, success, wealth, being liked, having whatever it is that you want. And so then we think, well, that's why I like the spiritual community. Because, we're not doing those things. And then I offer you the 7 spiritual laws of success. Carry this crystal in your pocket and you'll get the right outcome. Manifest your life. Create your vision board. it's all kind of the same. I mean, what the culture tells us permeates into the spiritual world to some degree, even though the root of spiritual traditions is this bigger truth. The myths work their way in anyway. It's all really an if-then formula. If I do this and this, it equals this. If I eat the right foods, take the right supplements, say the right things, get the right degrees, I can have whatever I want. It's something like work plus willpower equals outcome. I think it was about 15 years ago now when I was believing in this myth and I was in a business relationship and it was not going well. And I have always prided myself on my communication skills, that I could solve anything with communication. And so I tried. I set myself on the task of trying to solve this business relationship with communication. I had pulled out every tool I'd ever learned, and you know what? It still failed. Then what happens? Here's the problem with this myth. The culture has no answers for us when it fails. When you don't get the job, when you don't get the promotion, when you still get the illness, when your relationship still fails, what does the culture tell you to do? Try again. Get up, right? Never say never. There's never any opportunity. There's never any value placed on reflection, on reconsideration, on listening to your soul. It's just get up or fall down 7 times and get up 8. I mean, I heard that once and I just chuckled because I thought, if I fall down 7 times, I think I want to take a break. I think I just want to figure out if this is really what I'm meant to be doing. See, when it doesn't work out, when the myth fails, I mean, I'm going to tell you that there's some value. And if you're feeling a little defensive, that's okay, because there certainly is some value to working hard. I'm not trying to devalue that. And there certainly is value in creating a vision board and setting your sights on a goal. What I'm saying, though, is that it's limited. I mean, every myth has elements of the truth, otherwise it doesn't work. Every myth has elements of the truth. But it's limited because it doesn't give us any option except for to blame ourselves. I mean, if it is fully in your control to get whatever it is you want, then whose fault is it when it doesn't pan out? If it was fully your success, then isn't it also fully your failure? And doesn't that just lead to a culture of guilt and shame and self-blame? And is it any wonder that when I offer workshops on improving self-talk and self-love, they fill up? Because this is what we need? Because our culture has so inundated us in this idea of control. And you know what this myth does is it puts us at the center of our life as if we're the only ones that matter. And so now we're driving down the road, right? And we hit a roadblock and we think it's all about us. And we think that that roadblock was put there just to trip us up. Whether that roadblock is a job that we didn't get, a relationship that we didn't get, we think that it had to do with us and we take it personally. We could just turn around. We could take the detour. But the one thing we can't do is drive forward. And I don't care how much willpower you have or ambition you have, the road is closed. The culture only tells us to double down. It only tells us, hey, maybe you can adapt your mindset, shift your mindset. But it never tells us to release the myth. It never suggests that maybe the problem is the myth and that there is a greater truth. Now, what is the opposite of control? If we don't have control, then what? Do we just fail? Do we just give up? Do we fall into apathy or complacency? The opposite of control is agency. The alternative to control is agency. Here's the difference between agency and control. Agency, you go through life with an open hand. The sands of life flow through. You're not trying to grip it. You're just letting it flow. Control is trying to grip and hold on to the sand. Agency takes life as it comes. It's a lot more playful, a lot more fun, a lot more willing to be surprised, a lot less expecting certainty. Agency is in alignment with your soul, with the universe. Agency listens. Control speaks. Control sees the world as something to wrestle into submission. This whole world, it's a dog-eat-dog world. It's a world where we also believe in the myth of scarcity, that there's not enough for everybody. And so you know what? We have to fight for what's ours. And you know who we have to fight? Each other. Agency is about responses and reactions, about being able to take a moment, to take a pause. Control is focused utterly on the outcome. One of the greatest spiritual texts, the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu text, the whole idea of this book, of this text, briefly, here's Arjuna. He's a warrior. He is on the battlefield, and across the field, the fog lifts, and he sees it's his family. And he immediately drops his sword, and he says, I will not fight. And in that moment, Krishna, so God in the form of Krishna, comes down to talk to Arjuna about his duty and about doing what he is here to do, and he is here to be a warrior. And the whole thing freezes. And the whole book, the Bhagavad Gita, is essentially a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna about what is in his control. And in 100 different ways, because Arjuna is human just like us and needs to hear it 100 different times, Krishna says to him, you have the right to your actions. You do not have the right to the outcomes. Agency grants us freedom. Control keeps us stuck in illusions. And there is a great allegory that I want to read a little bit from today, kind of an abbreviated version, called Plato's Cave. You've heard it. Anyone else heard this before? Okay. It's all about illusion and control. A group of prisoners is trapped in a cave, though they do not think of themselves as prisoners. They have grown accustomed and are perhaps addicted to watching the myriad stories playing out day and day night on the cave walls. These stories depict heroes and villains, war and victory, virtue and vice. The prisoners, having been in there as long as they can remember, believe what they are seeing on the cave walls is the truth. They are fully invested in the story and often fight each other over who is right and who is wrong. But anyone from the outside could easily see that these stories are nothing more than shadow and light dancing together. They are but devices to distract, subdue, and control the population. It is the job of these stories and those who tell them to keep the prisoners occupied so that they forget that they are prisoners. They do their job well. One day, a single prisoner dares to look beyond the perimeter of their surroundings. The prisoner notices for the first time the human operators responsible for projecting the stories on the wall. The prisoner sees how the constant busyness and distraction keeps the occupants trapped and complacent. Then the prisoner notices that behind the operators is a set of stairs leading up and out of the cave. The prisoner steals past the operators, easily slips the guards, who themselves have become hypnotized by the stories on the wall, and follows the stairs to an entirely new and beautiful world. Later, this now freed human returns to the cave to share the good news with the remaining prisoners. But they are confused. They struggle to believe. Rather than listen or look around, they attack the prisoner as an agitator. They do not want to upset their comfortable, if confining, status quo. Instead of investigating, they double down on their commitment to choosing winners and losers from the stories playing on the wall, for they cannot bear the prospect that much of what they have invested their passions and energy in throughout their lives is only an illusion. It was kind of the perfect story to share today. And I have on my Threads account, trying to get out of Plato's cave and hoping to take as many people with me as I can. I figure that's really what I'm here to do. And we do it one illusion at a time. Can't do them all. There's so many. I mean, there's the myth of perpetual growth, right? Which we're always just growing like this. Which isn't true. We know that we go through a birth, death, rebirth cycle. You know, there's the myth of scarcity, which I mentioned. There's the myth of us versus them. I mean, there's all kinds of myths that are designed to keep us separate and complacent and distracted. One myth at a time, we free ourselves. And so here today, our option is to surrender the myth of control. For many reasons, some of which already probably are clear to you, but here's one. Because control, the idea of it comes from the ego. I mean, who's the part of you that wants all of that? Who's the part of you that wants success and achievement and fame and wealth and the other stuff? It's often the ego. And I know that because my first book, Embodying Soul, A Return to Wholeness, is a conversation between me and my soul. And so I had an opportunity in this book to embody my soul and to speak on her behalf. And guess what she told me? Keri, all those things you think you want, it's not what I'm here for. I would tell a story in the book about, my wins and my losses and my grievances and my frustrations and my failures, and my soul would say, I thought it was an interesting experience. I learned so much. Thank you. And so I learned that my soul is curious and open and accepting and wanting life to be like one of those choose your own adventure doors or books, That's how she sees it. And, my ego is always like, yeah, but. Come more into the life and the desires of your soul when you release control. As I mentioned too, it distracts us. This myth distracts us because here's what. When we're focused on that roadblock and we're so certain that it's about us, then you know what we don't see? We don't see the bigger picture. We don't see that maybe that roadblock is because of a larger structure. We don't see the biases, the system inequalities. We don't see all the built-in obstacles, the racism, the sexism, the ageism, the favoritism. We don't see it because we're so focused on how it affected us. When we realize it's not about us, we can see the bigger picture. This myth also tells us that our value comes through our productivity, which is another myth. And it is an unkind master. It is driving us all the time to do more. I mean, is there ever enough? So Lao Tzu, the author of the I Ching, the Book of Changes, said, trying to control the future is like trying to take the master carpenter's place. When you handle the master carpenter's tools, chances are you'll cut your hand. So now I want to switch and talk about control from the macrocosm, the collective perspective. But over here, I think it goes by slightly different names. Control on the collective, control on the societal level is more about stability and security and order. And there's another word that I came across when I was researching for my current book that I'm working on called solutionism. Solutionism is this idea that anything can be solved with the right amount of elbow grease. If we just put our shoulder to the boulder, right? If we just get the right people in the room, even the most complicated wars, the most nuanced situations can be solved. That's kind of an American thing, don't you think? This idea of solutionism. It reminds me of when I was a girl and I used to do puzzles with my mom. And so we'd take this box of chaos, right? And we'd start by creating a border and get a little, barrier, right? A little boundary. And then we would start to sort the pieces by color and shape and object. And we would work our way toward that final solution. And there's always that last piece that you're clicking into place and it's done. But what happens when the pieces don't fit? What happens when you don't have all the pieces? What happens to us in our minds when we have been so steeped in this idea of solutionism, when things don't seem to have a solution? Take climate change. I mean, I think the scientists have been telling us for a pretty long time that we're past the Rubicon with this. Trying to tell us gently, but we don't want to listen. But we might have little more to do than mitigate at this stage, or from our current level of consciousness. But we hold on to hope, right? That's what we do. We want to try to find hope. There's got to be a way, because it's very difficult to accept that this might be a runaway train at this point. When I think about control on the collective, I also think about control of the narrative, control of the story. There's a quote by author Christopher Ryan. He says, "He who controls the story controls the world." Or basically, the winners write the history, right? So the narrative that I was raised up on about this country was that it was good, that it had the moral high ground, that we negotiated in good faith, that we were mighty, that we had an incredible amount of soft power that we used. We didn't pick fights, we usually helped solve dilemmas. We were never the instigator, we were always a supporter of good. Other countries wanted to be like us. They paid attention to us. They wanted our clothes, our music, our books. They wanted to live here. That's how I understood. That's how I understood our country growing up. So now what? Feels like that's a bit of a myth. And it feels like there are some cracks that are happening in that myth, and it's exposing a greater reality that we may or may not want to see. So we have options because we are clever. Human beings are very clever. When the illusions fall apart, we usually just try to fix them, or we create exceptions. It's true except for. Or we create carve-outs, or we create yeah-buts, okay? Or we create entirely new illusions. And I want to share a few that I've come up with, and I think you might have some more. Because if the illusion of America, as all of those things I said, is a falling down around us, then here are some other options. Number one, the myth of nostalgia. When I was growing up, it was better. 50 years ago, it was better. Maybe we have to go back before women could vote. Maybe we have to go back, right? The myth of nostalgia. You can buy into that. Some people do. You can buy into the myth of an enemy within or a few bad apples, and you can hope that if we just round up the bad guys, everything will be fine. You see how that's a way to maintain a sense of stability and control and order? That's how the myth works. It gives you that back. Another one is we can be exempt, right? I'm exempt. I'm not going to get caught up in any of this. Not me personally. It's about them. And then, of course, with that myth, we're forgetting the great perennial truth that all is one, and we're in this together. Then there's the myth of the dictator or the strong man, that, sometimes things just get so bad, you need someone to come in and fix it and make it better now. And I don't care what you have to do. I'll even give up some of my rights. I'll even give up some of yours if we can just make it happen, right? No more negotiation, no more of this funny business. I just want answers. One of my favorite myths that I have bought into several times is the myth of the hero. That there'll be someone who will come along who is very brave and very smart and sets things right. I mean, is it any reason we believe in that myth? Think of all of our movies that we've been watching since we were kids. Or you don't have to buy into another myth. You can just distract yourself. There's plenty to keep you distracted. You can deny, you can ignore, you can downplay, you can normalize. Or you know what we can do? We can get out of Plato's cave together. We can just free ourselves of the illusion and get to a larger reality. Because here's what an illusion is. An illusion is a bridge that connects reality with what we actually believe or want to believe or what we actually do. Let me give you an example of this in a very simple example. Let's say you're a smoker and you know that smoking causes cancer, but you don't want to quit smoking. So you have the reality, which is that you're smoking, and then this other reality that smoking causes cancer, and the two things can't sit in your brain at the same time. That's called cognitive dissonance. It's very uncomfortable. We will go to great lengths to avoid cognitive dissonance. One thing we'll do is we'll create myths or we'll tell stories. So in this case, we say, well, my great-grandfather smoked until he was 95 and he never got cancer. I don't really believe the science anyway. Those scientists are probably all compromised. Well, we're all going to die sometime, so I may as well smoke, right? So that's on a very small level of how we correct for cognitive dissonance, and we do that all the way up to the top. Well, I believe in freedom except for in these situations. I believe in free speech except for in these situations. We create a bridge to correct the cognitive dissonance. But I still think that what we can do instead, because you're here, and because we are invested in a spiritual practice, and because we all actually do believe those perennial truths, that we can keep working to get disillusioned. We're already disillusioned, are we not? So why not now Continue that practice, because as you remove the bridges, guess what? You get closer and closer to reality. You get closer and closer to the greatest truths. It's uncomfortable getting disillusioned. It's uncomfortable learning that your parents don't have all the answers, or that coach or teacher that you really looked up to was really only human. Or I remember what I learned when I was a runner in high school and college, and when I made that transition and was invited to my first college cross-country party, I was so certain they didn't drink at those parties because they were so, committed to their athleticism. Surprise. Disillusionment. It opens your eyes to greater reality. And I think right now, disillusionment should be part of all of our spiritual practice. Get disillusioned. Make it part of your practice. Take on the myths. I've created a whole newsletter just breaking down myths. It's on Medium. You can find it there. One at a time, let's break them down. Let's get all the way over to the truth again, because it's already happening. What better opportunity do we have? And here's where my message of hope comes in, because I do bring it eventually. This is a great time for us to get closer and closer to truth, to living the perennial truths that all is one and that you and I were the same. There is no difference between us. When we get closer and closer to reality, when we break down these myths, you know what else we meet face to face, fully present? Chaos. We meet chaos. Because so far right now, we're all just still trying to hold on to whatever semblance of control and order we can have. When you let that go, you step and you meet chaos and you say, yeah, this is chaotic. It's crisis. It's a breakdown. But you know what those things are? They're the partner of order. And to think in that yin-yang partnership that only order matters, that only order and structure has anything to teach us, chaos has a lot of lessons. Chaos has gifts, even. Think of the caterpillar and the butterfly. This is my favorite example. That caterpillar could never, ever become a butterfly if it stayed in an ordered state. It had to break itself down until its consistency was nothing more than pea soup. Then it was able to emerge completely transformed as something new. The same thing happens for us when we're in times of crisis. Think of your midlife crisis, the classic midlife crisis, right? What better time to completely reinvent your life? What better opportunity to reflect and reassess and reconnect than in a midlife crisis? Because now at least you're not so busy raising kids, doing the job, trying to build the relationship, whatever. An identity crisis? All of those identities that you held on to and that you were committed to and even maybe addicted to, and now they're gone? Well, now you get to ask a beautiful question. Who am I without those identities? An existential crisis? I should only hope we all have some. I've had a few dark nights of the soul where all you're asking is, who am I and why am I here and what's my purpose? You're probably not asking those questions when you're in an ordered state. Those are the gifts of chaos. That's what we can learn in these liminal stages, these spaces in between what we were and what we could be, both personally and collectively. We can remake ourselves, but in order to do that, we have to be willing to undergo the breakdown. If we truly want a whole different kind of consciousness, if we truly want a whole different kinds of society, I'll tell you, there's not ever been in history an empire that has lasted forever. Maybe we're not that different. Maybe that's part of what we accept when we break the illusions. And so maybe now, instead of avoiding chaos or trying to cling to whatever's left, we just accept it and we go there and we do the work. Because when you are in a space of chaos, you know what else you are really close to? The imaginal world. And the imaginal world is the world that lives behind this world. It's the world that has the palette for this world. It's the space where you go when you imagine or you dream or you journey or you visualize. It is the space where impossible things happen, where Alice in Wonderland goes. Okay, it's magic. Ask any artist and they will tell you that their greatest creations came in times of crisis in their lives. Guess what? Because they were so close to the imaginal world. That's where we are right now. That's where we're being invited to go. There, we can reimagine, we can recreate, we can get back in touch with our morals and our values and our ethics and our principles. Because guess what? We are all going to be asked at some point in the future if we want to sacrifice those for a little bit more sense of order, a little bit more safety, or a little more security. So why not take this time now to really ground deep into what you stand for and what you will stand up for, what matters to you, where your lines are. How often do you have those chances in life to really break things down and reassess and be in a stage between life cycles? If we do this, we can get our focus back. We can get our attention back. We can get our sovereignty back. We can reclaim our agency. We can make choices that come from a space of responding, not reaction or fear. We can be beacons of light and truth for so many others. This is when we step into a larger truth. This, what I'm talking about here, going into this space, doing this work, taking up this invitation, this is where the hope lies. And this is not an illusion. This is a path. This is a path for times of crisis. It is a path that will give you light in the darkness. It is a path that will give you strength and courage. And most of all, it's a path that will give you freedom. Thank you.
Thank you, Keri Mangis. And now it is time for our offering. And Keri's going to lead a circle after our offering. But just a reminder, while you're digging deep right now, that you can also go online and be a regular donor, like Keri at spiritualcommunity.org. That would help get us through the highs and lows and more like this financially. And we're a totally independent organization, totally dependent on your volunteerism as well as your contributions. So the ushers then will come forward while Gary plays a song.
You can say that you stand apart, put a fence around your yard. You can build a tall rampart, guard it with a gun. You can dig yourself a moat, burn the bridge and burn the boat. It won't matter that much, you know, 'cause all the world is one. All the world is one. You can march in a big parade every Independence Day. You can raise up your own flag, sing your own anthem. It'll ring out in the air with the other anthems there. To the winds of the earth declare, all the world is one. All the world is one. Go and ask the Buddha when he's sitting under the tree. Go ask Walt Whitman when he's looking out at the sea. Ask Alan Shepard when he's standing up on the moon, staring at that pearl of blue. Ask an atom in the breath you take. Ask the water by the riverbank. Ask a strand of DNA that's written in your blood. One life running in your veins, one life from one big bang. You can try and separate it, but all the world is one. All the world is Ask Annie Dillard when she's up on Tinker Creek. Ask Alan Shepard when he's standing up on the moon, staring at that pearl of blue. You can take an outbound train, try to make a getaway. You can ride off like John Wayne to the setting sun. But earthlings don't leave town, they just go round and round till they figure out all the world is one. All the world is one. All the world is one. All the world is
Okay, that was All the World is One by Peter Mayer. He's one of my favorite guys. He's local. I think lives in the White Bear, Stillwater area. So sometimes he does local concerts. Okay, so we have this tradition of blessing the green. And so if you'll join me, God's perfect love, flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Oh. Okay, if we'll circle up for a closing circle.
How are you? Good.
We can do it.
Okay, so I think we're just going to return to the meditation that we opened with today and just recollect ourselves once again before you go back out into your day. But I do just want to thank you all for being here and for your presence. And I so appreciate that. Closing your eyes, settling into your body once again. Continuing to repeat this practice because the more you repeat it, the more it can become automatic in your life. So starting with your feet, feeling grounded, stable, just surrender to that support. Let your toes relax. Bring your awareness up into your legs, softening the muscles, just engaged enough to hold yourself up. And coming into your hips and lower belly, touching that breath once again. Nice and deep, down low in the belly. And coming up a little bit higher now into the chest and the heart, feeling your heart lift, your chest open, your shoulders relax down. Feeling energy now pouring down your arms and into your hands. And just feeling our connection here as we stand in that perennial truth that all is one. That we are connected. Bringing your awareness up into your chin and your face, relaxing and softening into the mind. Just letting it relax, and then just softening the crown of your head. And just noticing this feeling of presence and embodiment and wholeness. And remembering that it is from this place that you maintain your agency and your power, that you maintain your sovereignty, and that you stay connected to what really matters to you and to the great perennial truths. Let's bring your hands together in front of your heart. Namaste.
Namaste.
Mm-hmm. I do have a crisis guide that I have made. It's out here along with my books if you want to pick one of those up. And I'd love to chat with any of you if you'd like to stay.